Hampden Sydney, pick number 1 in the ODAC this year. Marty Favret, not going to argue with the prediction. He's the head coach of the Tigers. He joined me on the Sports Buffet podcast. We talked about one of his star transfers, Nash Nance, who is coming in to Hampden Sydney. We talked about the Tigers as a whole, looking at the offense, defense. Can Hampden Sydney win the ODAC? Marty Favret hopes so, but right now he shares his thoughts on the Sports Buffet podcast.
I always encourage people to take the trip up to Farmville to see Hampden Sydney, but this year might be a really special year for Marty Favret's crew. Marty Favret, the head coach of the Tigers, joins me here on the Sports Buffet podcast. And Coach, it's not every day that a Division I quarterback can just walk in and say, "Hey, Coach, I want to come play here." Talk about getting a guy who was in the Tennessee system in Nance Nash.
Well, first and foremost, we were in the market for a quarterback with Travis Lane graduating and really not having anyone in the program that we felt was the next guy. So we made it a priority to basically bring in a really good freshman quarterback. And then, the whole Nash Nance thing kind of came out of the blue, and it's been documented. I thought it was a prank call when his dad called me and said, "Hey, yeah, my son's a scholarship kid at the University of Tennessee." And but we came up for a visit, and it took on a life of its own. And we're certainly very excited to have Nash here. He's all that we thought he'd be, and then some. And you're right, it doesn't happen. I've been in Division III for 19 years. It's only the third time I can remember a quarterback transferring in from a Division I program.
When you have a guy that wants to come in from a Division I program, obviously 9 times out of 10, or maybe 10 times out of 10, I'm going to take it that somebody you've not recruited. What's your first step when you hear that he wants to come into your program? What do you do?
Well, I think the first thing they have to do is you have to be cleared to talk to him. You got to get a waiver from that school. You're leery, I think, initially. I mean, particularly if it's a situation where, the young man's been in some trouble or has bounced around, and also if he's a guy that's just going to come for 1 year, we wouldn't touch him. But, Nash is a guy that was squeaky clean. He's a great student. He's looking for a new fit, good academics, and he had 3 years eligibility. So, we were going against schools like Lehigh and Holy Cross and Harvard and Yale, and, to be mentioned with those kind of schools was kind of flattering. And, we did the best we could with him. I think he fit in with our guys, and obviously liked what he saw in terms of our offense and Hampden Sydney's reputation, and, we got lucky, quite frankly.
Like you mentioned, you've been in the game for 19 years at the Division III level, so this is not your first rodeo at the Ponderosa. But when you get a guy like that who's come from a Division I program, how much do you kind of want to pick his brain about, what he has seen and, what type of things he's done? Maybe, everybody can learn, and I would think you're probably no exception in terms of maybe he's done something or seen something done that you guys could implement somehow in the Hampden Sydney system.
Well, that's true. And I actually talked to Eric Gaines, who was a Tennessee quarterback, had trained Nash this spring, and picked his brain as far as where Nash was at, what they expected him to do. I think the one thing you'll see at the Division I level, and I've sat in on many meetings with whether it's Tech or UVA or Maryland, they tend to I think almost overcoach that position, and so we needed to deprogram on that a little bit. We ask our quarterback to do a lot, but we don't ask him to do quite as much as he was being expected to do at Tennessee as far as checking protections and all that. So as we get to know him better, he's got to learn my offense first. I think when that happens, and as we evolve over the next couple of years, we'll start, maybe kind of messing more of the stuff he does real well, as in terms of what he did there at Tennessee. But right now, I think they averaged 12 points a game last year or something. I don't know if we want to do too much of what they were doing.
Right. Yeah, you kind of touched on something in the beginning that I want to hit on real quick before we talk about your team specifically. When you're recruiting guys, obviously you kind of, sometimes know their coaches better than others. You know what they might know. But when you get a guy coming into Hampden Sydney, how much do you need to know what his football IQ is, if that makes sense?
That's huge, and particularly at that position. And of course, you don't all, you think you know sometimes, and you really can't tell on a recruiting visit or whatever. Right. You talk to the high school coaches. I think you're always curious as to what kind of schemes they ran in high school. Some are much more sophisticated than others, but really it's about the kid his willingness to learn, his willingness to accept criticism, and we're really pleased with him in those areas right now. He's very bright. He's picking things up.
Do you think it's easier for a college coach to come down? Because I know Jeff Woody played for you up at Hampden Sydney. He's the head coach at Brookville, and I think you guys, from what I hear, run pretty similar things. Is it easy to come in and say, well, wow, they run the same thing we do. These guys would be a good fit in our program, as to if somebody's running something, that's totally different from what you guys are, that, wow, we might have to get his football IQ adjusted a little more?
Well, it's about, like, at the quarterback position, let's face it, if it's a wing key guy that hasn't done a whole lot of drop back, that's going to be a big adjustment. And now you're seeing more shotgun offenses, and then suddenly kids need to adjust to being under center. But no, I think it's a big learning curve regardless, and it's really the fact that nobody's going both ways in the college level. There's the meetings are it's just more sophisticated, and then of course you get to the NFL and then it's times 10. So, but no, I think there's certain programs that probably fit college programs a little better. I think that'd be fair.
How do you feel about being picked first in the ODAC, and how do you want your kids to feel about that in the preseason poll?
Well, I was a little surprised. I mean, I don't know why. Maybe we are the defending champs, and we got a Division I quarterback coming in, but it was a bigger deal to me in my first few years here, and now it's. I mean, I hate to be the cliche, but it really doesn't matter. I really like being picked first. I don't have any issue with it. I think it establishes that you got a good program, and any more or less pressure, I think they're, everybody's got pressure on them. But I'd rather be picked first than last. And as far as our players go, we're not satisfied. We were a little disappointed the way our season ended last year, and I think for the first time, we're a hungry defending championship team, which is a good combination.
Let's talk a little bit about your team. Obviously, you talk about losing Travis Lean, but you also lose some other talented All-ODAC people and some All-Americans. I don't want to say is one guy tougher to replace than the other, but what are, guys like Kyle Vance, Ben Rogers, Sean Cavanaugh, and Kirk Roll, what is something that's going to be hard to replace that somebody that came to, all of your games might not understand that's hard to replace out of those guys?
Well, you just rattled off, 5 Hall of Fame Hampden Sydney football players. I mean, it's very unusual to have the talent level we had in that senior class on one side of the ball. And, we had 2 first-team All-Americans, and if Cavanaugh had stayed healthy, heck, he could have put up better numbers than anybody. So Ben Rogers was the heart and soul of this team for 4 years. He was a 2-year captain. He's a once-in-a-decade type of player, and his leadership off the field is what you miss. And you can't replace him. I mean, you got to do it by committee. But you're just talking about one of the all-time studs here in terms of just everything he was able to do. And even we're looking at Nash now, and then we're watching film of Travis last year. I mean, if he could be as good as Travis Lane was as a senior, it'd be a really good year for him. And so, yeah, we're replacing some real good players, and it's going to mean really defensively we need to be better, because I think to be averaging 43 points a game like we did last year is going to be maybe a little unrealistic.
What else gets you excited about this team's offense coming back?
Our offensive line is going to be better. We lose Ben, but we have 4 other guys that have started, and then we got some terrific tight ends, which is, we're going to be more New England Patriot-like, I think, with a 6'5" guy and a 6'4" guy that, Gronkowski type guys. So we're going to, with the height we have, we're going to be a little different in terms of how we throw the ball, and then Evan King has proven himself as a running back. He played extensively 2 years ago when Kirk got hurt, and I think he's got a chance to be a star.
When we look at the defense, though, 8 guys return off that defense, too. And, you talk about having guys return off the line, which is important. Well, I think when you can return 8 guys out of an 11-player defense, that's pretty important, too. Talk about the defense.
Well, it's as bad as we played down the stretch. I guess that's the old joke. The good news is you're returning 8 starters. Maybe that's the bad news, too. Now, our defense is going to be better. And we were young, and that's not an excuse. But we lost our confidence in the middle of the season, and we really didn't play the way we're used to playing down the stretch. So we got some terrific players over there. And I talked about the kind of guys we had on offense last year. a year from now, we'll be saying the same thing about a few of these kids on defense. First-team All-League kind of guys. Kenny Fryman, who was a first-team All-League linebacker, is sort of our heart and soul. But Stephen Fogelman might be the best player on our football team, and he missed the majority of the season last year with an injury. So he's a guy we're excited to get back. And I'm just noticing in practice already, there's a different attitude over there. And I think it's really, really healthy.
When you say different, what's the attitude been like that you've noticed to make it different?
I think there's some sand kicked in those guys' face, and I think the reaction now is that, you know what, it's time for us to be, kick back. And I just feel this. I just like the amount of noise over there. I think we're going to have a really competitive situation in camp, offense and defense, and that's sort of what I want. And then we got to go out there and get it done on the field.
Let's talk real quick about your locals from the Lynchburg-Roanoke area. 3 Brookville Bees, Holton Walker, Ben Simmons, who's transferring in, and Tyler Martin. What do you see out of those guys that makes you excited?
Well, in the case of Tyler and Ben, they literally had just finished their second practice here, so I like them both. Ben is I watched their high school, and he's got some skill set. He's undersized as a running back, but he's got great vision. Holton Walker's the guy that we're going to lean on. I mean, he's clearly a starting receiver for us, and our expectations are that he will be, hopefully better than Jeff Woody was when he was here.
Sean Clark out of Amherst County, your impressions?
Well, Sean's been a steady guy for us. Unfortunately, he's been hurt a lot, but he's been our long snapper, and we've had to move him around. Started out as a center, which is where he played at Amherst, and then we've moved him to defensive end. And if he can stay healthy, his energy level is terrific, and he is a great young man. And I'm really hoping his senior year is a productive one for him, because he's earned it. And he's one of our core guys, and we're excited to have Sean wrap up his career hopefully with another ring.
Fuller Clark from Northcross.
He's been a pleasant surprise. He's he's skinny, and he doesn't seem like he's the greatest athlete, but he's another guy that he's going to play snaps for us this year. He's got great hands, and he's proven that he can handle the pressure, which is a big thing for a guy that's only a sophomore. So we expect Fuller to make some plays for us.
And then you've got Tyler Fowler from Jefferson Forest.
Yeah, Fowler's another one that, young. He certainly had a good career there and put up some big numbers as a running back. He's probably going to have to wait his turn this year a little bit, but he came in here in good shape, and he's working hard, and I think he's going to have a good career here.
Avert is coming up. That's the first game of the season. What worries you about the trip down to Danville?
Well, 2 years ago, our bus didn't show up, so we had to go in car. So I guess the first thing is we'll make sure our buses come. Fortunately, it was only an 80-mile trip. Yeah, but they struggled last year. I think I need to let our guys know that they're going to be much improved, and they're a different team at home. And so, we're trying to worry about ourselves right now. Next week we'll start focusing on them a little bit, but Mike does a good job. They got some good athletes, and it's the opener, and so everybody's playing with house money, and I think we're gonna, they're gonna come after our quarterback, and I know with all the hype that we can expect people to want to put the Tennessee guy on his butt a little bit. So it's gonna be a fun game, and it's been a nice little rivalry. It's good to have them on our schedule.
Final thing for you, Coach. Always appreciate the time. Look forward to doing it again. I love to zing Jeff Woody as much as I can about anything. Give me something that I can kind of pick on Jeff Woody about that's maybe not near and dear to you, but just give me something else. I'm running out of ammunition.
Well, it's the same old thing with Jeff. And by the way, he went into our Hall of Fame last year, and congratulations to him on that. That was an emotional day for me and for him. But he still is the slowest wide receiver I've coached here. And I can't imagine if he can even run still. I don't know, but back, he was a 5'2", 40, so now he's probably, in the offensive lineman range. But no, congratulations to them on the state title, and I know they're loaded this year, so hopefully he won't screw it up.
Well, that's a great note to leave on, Coach. As always, appreciate the time, and we'll talk again very soon.
All right, Bob. Thank you.